Finally, Glover Teixeira gets another chance to win back the belt after losing to Prochazka by submission in the 5th round at UFC 275. The fight won 2022's Fight of the Year award and was one of the best comebacks in the light heavyweight title's fight history. Glover and Prochazka were set to rematch at UFC 282, but just a week before the event, Prochazka suffered a serious shoulder injury, so he had to vacate his title. Now at UFC 283, Teixeira will get his wish on a timeline, but against a new opponent, Jamahal Hill. At the UFC 282 post-fight press conference, Dana White revealed that Glover Teixeira and Jamahal Hill is a done deal for the vacant light heavyweight title at UFC 283 in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil on January 21st. Considering Jamahal Hill's most recent appearance that came in the form of a 4th-round TKO finish over Thiago Santos in August. He's riding a 3-fight knockout streak after suffering his first career loss to Paul Craig at UFC 263. Let's not forget that Hill was initially booked against Anthony Smith, but was pulled from the fight to face Teixeira with just 6 weeks prior notice. Now, let's look into the fighting records of the two contenders. The former light heavyweight champion Glover Teixeira currently holds a professional record of 33-8-0. He ranks in the division and has 33 victories with an 85% finish record, including 17 knockouts, 11 submissions, and 5 decision wins. His major victories include those over Anthony Smith, Thiago Santos, and Jan Blachowicz. On the other hand, Jamahal Hill, his rival, is ranked number 7 right now and has an 11-1-1 record in the professional ring. His major victories include those over Jimmy Crute, Thiago Santos, and Johnny Walker. Also known as Sweet Dreams, the fighter made his debut in 2019 when he defeated Alexander Popek in the 3rd round of Dana White's Contender Series 21. Jamahal Hill received a UFC contract as a result of his victory at the DWCS, and at UFC Fight Night 166, he faced Darko Stosic in what is still his only decision victory in the organization. Do you think Jamahal Hill stands a chance to be the next light heavyweight champion? Comment your opinion below. Conor McGregor reacts to the Paddy Pimblett fight. Also on Saturday night, at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, the baddie edged out his toughest opponent to date to move up to 4-0 in the UFC. All 3 UFC 282 judges gave him the win in a razor-thin contest, 29-28, although his opponent, other UFC judges, and many fans believe that the result should have been the other way around. UFC legend Nate Diaz disputed the decision online, as did former dual-weight champion Henry Cejudo, who said, "Man, that's the worst decision. It definitely makes me feel ill." In spite of the controversy surrounding his 4th UFC victory, the fighter himself believes he did enough to defeat Gordon in all 3 rounds. Well, after enduring a day of post-fight criticism, Pimblett at last received some words of encouragement from Notorious, who praised him for his performance and claimed that the 27-year-old is progressing with his brief UFC career in the proper way. McGregor tweeted, "Congrats Paddy the Baddie this weekend. Despite what you would think, doing everything perfectly. Amazing stuff. Onward. Hashtag another one." The former champion of the lightweight and featherweight divisions has always had a soft place for Pimblett, who followed in his footsteps by rising to fame with Cage Warriors before joining the sport's top organization. Pimblett is anticipated to return to action on March 18th at UFC 286 in London, if he quickly recovers from any injuries sustained from his battle at UFC 282. Who do you think will be his next opponent, and why? Let us know in the comment section below. Darren Till suffers a 3rd straight loss, and Nate Diaz has some harsh words for Darren Till and Paddy Pimblett last night. At UFC 282 in Las Vegas, Darren Till suffered his 3rd straight defeat after being submitted by Dricus du Plessis. In the 3rd round, the former welterweight title contender was knocked to the ground and eventually submitted to a rear naked choke from du Plessis. Till repeatedly lagged during the 3 rounds and claimed to have ruptured his ACL while speaking with Bruce Buffer as he exited the octagon. The 29-year-old Liverpool native has now lost 3 consecutive matches. Du Plessis clearly had the intention of taking Till out early, as he controlled the majority of the 1st round. The South African, who entered the match 4 spots below the Liverpudlian, threw an astounding 60 strikes without receiving a single hit over the opening 5 minutes. Till fought back in the 2nd round, hitting solid strikes, but was knocked to the ground midway through the 3rd and gave up. Till has a history of injury problems, and those seem to rear their heads once again. Till has lost 5 of his previous 6 fights, yet he still posted on social media after each loss. "I'll be back at some time, love yas." However, Till found some solace in the fact that his fight with du Plessis was named Fight of the Night, with each competitor reportedly getting $50,000 for their efforts. Nate Diaz, however, was not pleased by Darren Till's UFC defeat, calling the Scouse fighter a sucker after he was forced to submit in the 3rd round by Dricus du Plessis. After finishing out his contract with the promotion and competing for world titles in lightweight once, Diaz left the organization earlier this year. He's currently considering his options. However, he remains an avid supporter of combat sports and was present when Till was defeated in Las Vegas during the preliminary fight for UFC 282. Although their teams engaged in a confrontation the night before the press conference for Till's final fight at UFC 279, Diaz and Till don't seem to have a history of having a bad relationship. Till was in Las Vegas to support teammate Khamzat Chimaev, who was due to fight Diaz until he missed weight by over half a stone and the main event had to be hastily rearranged. Sean O'Malley weighs in regarding the conflict between Ariel Helwani and Paddy Pimblett. In a recent episode of his Bromalley YouTube show, UFC bantamweight contender Sean O'Malley offered his honest opinion on the recent exchange between Paddy Pimblett and Ariel Helwani. In the 135 division, Sugar is currently in a challenging position because all of the competitors at the top of the standings have strong cases for winning the gold medal next. The flashy striker was passed over by the UFC in favor of Henry Cejudo, despite maybe having the most claim to a title chance. Sean O'Malley sided with the journalist when speaking about the situation surrounding Paddy Pimblett and Ariel Helwani's recent verbal altercation. He describes himself as one of the most passionate sports enthusiasts he's ever encountered. Over time, Sean O'Malley and Paddy Pimblett have developed a bond with one another. This makes the bantamweight's decision to support Ariel Helwani all the more puzzling. So what caused the conflict between Paddy Pimblett and Ariel Helwani? Paddy Pimblett criticized Ariel Helwani for trying to make money off of several MMA fighters when bringing special guest Dana White to his Chatting Pony program. The MMA Hour host, of course, responded and gave a respectable amount of time to the topic. He narrated his side of the story, which appeared to portray him as the victim of this conflict. In essence, Pimblett's manager demanded that Helwani pay for an interview for his client, which didn't sit well with the Canadian. The 40-year-old voiced his opinions, and a misunderstanding resulted in the Brit sending a cheeky cunt message that eventually sparked the feud that we have today. Aljamain Sterling discusses how he'll feel if he loses to Cejudo. Aljamain Sterling informed MMA Junkie that he won't be making a comeback until at least mid-2023, so he will not be defending his bantamweight belt against Henry Cejudo at UFC 284. The battle between Sterling and Cejudo was rumored to take place in Perth, Australia, but the Funkmaster needs a break after his brutal beating of TJ Dillashaw on Saturday at UFC 280 and subsequent second-round TKO. Despite Cejudo's persistent and urgent request for a chance at the title, Sterling will not only take some much-needed time off to rest and heal, but also has no intention of coming back to defend his bantamweight title against Cejudo. The Serra-Longo product would much rather face Sean O'Malley because he thinks Sugar is a bigger name than Triple C, and that their fight would be far more thrilling for fans. Sterling, who is 2-0 in title defenses, stated that he won't fight again until the middle of next year. He said Henry can go kick rocks because I've earned my time off. The fighter said he'd rather lose to a bigger opponent because he earns pay-per-view points as the division's current champion, stating that he'll stop receiving pay-per-view points the moment he loses the belt. So if Cejudo wants to fight, I'll gladly oblige. I want the biggest fight. However, I don't believe it's him. Actually, I don't. I even think that watching me battle Chito Vera would garner more enthusiasm than Cejudo. The former two-division champion and gold medalist at the Olympics, Cejudo is anticipated to compete again next year, although his opponent has not yet been decided. He was formerly regarded as one of the best fighters in the sport, but he's no longer ranked at flyweight or bantamweight. Paddy Pimblett goes off on Joe Rogan. Paddy Pimblett is one of the brightest prospects of the UFC. From the very beginning of his UFC career, the Englishman had amazing in-octagon talents and a strong outside-the-octagon persona. From the moment his entry theme begins to play, the crowd gives him huge pops. After a lengthy contract battle with the promotion, the baddie was selected for the co-main event of UFC 282. Pimblett also succeeded in defeating his rival by unanimous decision, but many well-known fight commentators and fans expressed the view that Pimblett's victory should not have been given to him. Pimblett was disgusted by the fact that Joe Rogan, the UFC's color announcer, also referred to the contest as being close. Pimblett immediately retorted to Joe Rogan that, in his opinion, the bout wasn't close. The baddie suggested that he'd won the battle convincingly. After UFC 282, Pimblett was also interviewed about his bout against Jared Gordon by the noted MMA coverage reporter Aaron Bronstetter. The baddie expressed his dissatisfaction at the people for failing to recognize his resounding victory over Gordon. Pimblett used a face-to-face comparison in his interview with Bronstetter to support his claim that he had won. He compared Gordon's face, which had been bleeding, to the small cut that he received within his mouth. He said, "A little cut inside. Look at my face, though." And then observe his face. The difference is clear. I can't believe. Moving on to the Joe Rogan section, he exclaimed, I'm fairly pissed off, to be honest, like Joe Rogan come in and say that it was a close fight. But was it really a close fight? Let us know what you think about that in the comment section below. Alright guys, that's a wrap on our video today. Please do well to give this video a thumbs up and also hit that subscribe button for more. Bye for now.